Hey, Jake.
Hey,
How's it going?
it's going great. I have my Christmas mask on today.
You are very
Christmas in,
festive.
what is it, April? I don't even know. What are months anymore?
No one knows.
What's a day? Who knows? Doesn't matter. Hi everybody. Welcome to Take a Break with Jake. Today we are talking about Fester, our turkey vulture. So I'm actually going to hand the camera over to Johnny, who's going to help us out. Hi, Johnny. You can say hi.
Hi.
She's got a red
Hey,
panda.
Johnny, you're looking festive too.
Oh, thank you. I have my red panda mask on.
So cute. So, Fester is a beautiful turkey vulture. His information's right up on the screen next to Kelsey's beautiful face. What we're actually going to do today is run his routine that he would normally be performing in our animal show here in the amphitheater. So Johnny's going to go get seated. We have trainers on stage and backstage to help release Fester. We're going to do some flights, and then we're going to take him over and hang out with him, and we can ask some questions and talk a little bit more about him. All right, so we'll get set up here. Johnny's getting into position, and we should be good to go. He wants that sun today.
Oh, yeah. Gotta stop for that sun moment.
He's sunning himself.
There he goes.
Good job. Kelsey, I'm just going to do a flight down to you, a flight up to me behind Johnny, and then be done. Beautiful.
Johnny, what's his wingspan?
It's about 6 feet.
So big.
Huge. He's going to fly up.
We're going to try one more flight up to me behind Johnny. We'll see if he's interested. Fester! Right here, buddy! Like, wait, a nibble.
There we go.
All right, so we're going to walk over to this exercise yard to put him in. The sun is really exciting to him today. He's really trying to hang out in the sun. So what I'm doing right
The
now...
sun's really exciting to me as well, so.
I know, right? What I'm doing right now is giving him some giant chunks of food so that he'll sit nice and calmly for us up here.
Pamela, you're totally right. Keep one turkey vulture distance between you. That's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fortunately, Johnny and I work here at the zoo all of our days together, so we are exposed to each other all the time. So we don't have to stay too far apart right now. Okay, so Fester's eating. I'm cleaning my hand off from all of the delightful meat that he's eating. And now we can give you guys an up-close look. Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks, Johnny.
You're welcome.
Okay, so beautiful seeing Fester fly like that. It's less beautiful watching him eat, but it's kind of neat to see how turkey vultures will pull at their food. Right now he's getting some chicks, which is like an essential part of his diet. Other things that he eats are rats, mice, rabbits, guinea pigs, really many different kinds of meat. And in the wild, turkey vultures eat a ton of carrion. And that's not like the luggage you take on a plane or a train. That's dead animals that you find on the side of a road or in a field or a forest. And that is the main reason why vultures are so essential to humans. They clean up our roadways, they clean up our forests and fields, they clean everything up by eating all of those carcasses and making sure that there's not a lot of disease spread, which is really awesome. Good job, Fester.
Yeah, they offer an amazing service to us all, and I feel like they're really underappreciated.
He got excited. Here, let's go up here. You can sit in the sun. He found some egg yolk on me. Delicious. That's like my actual flesh, though. You can't eat that. I know. All right, sit there, buddy. He's like, can I chow on you? No, thank you. So vultures have some really great adaptations that help them eat the food that they like to eat. So yeah, like someone's saying right now, there are natural pest control. There are like cleanup crew. They eat all of those dead animals. They make sure everything's clean. And the ways that they do that is they use their really cool bald head to stick into carcasses to make sure that they're not getting all covered in grime or grossness. Did you surprise yourself by stepping on a stick? It looks like it. Hi, come here. Let's try going up here again. All right. Sorry for the camera work today. Fester is all excited, so he's running all over. Okay, other adaptations that he has. He has a really cool nose here. There you go. Good view of that. And his nostrils, actually, you can see straight through them, just like there. And so if something gets stuck in his nostril, like while he's chowing down, he can actually stick a toe right up there and knock it out really easily, which I've seen him do, and it's really cool to get to see.
What a talent.
I know, right? Other great adaptations of the turkey vulture is actually kind of gross. They poop on their feet and their legs, and that keeps predators away. That's, again, my carcass, which is still very much alive. We don't need to be chowing on that. So they go to the bathroom all over their feet and their legs, and that smells really gross, which helps keep predators away. But it also helps get rid of some of the bacteria that they might get from standing in a carcass and eating it. So they're actually really clean birds. I think a lot of people have like a negative opinion of turkey vultures because they're eating all these dead things and that's gross. But honestly, if we didn't have vultures like Fester out in the wild eating all of these nasty animals, we would be overrun with a lot of disease and a lot of other gross things. So it's crucial to us to have animals like vultures as part of our cleanup crew out in nature. What they do is what's called an ecosystem service. And that's something that an animal inherently provides to the entire ecosystem just by living its everyday life. And so what I love to tell people is when you're considering vultures, you're considering animals like snakes or birds of prey that are eating all kinds of pests out in the wild. Remember that they're providing an essential ecosystem service to us, and think about what you and I do as humans that really we don't provide that many essential ecosystem services, right? Like me living my everyday life, I'm not really helping wildlife in our ecosystem unless I take definitive action. And so some really easy things that we can do at home, especially now that people are stuck at home a little bit more, is we can work on cutting down our waste. And that's a really big thing. And another thing that we can do is cut down the amount of electricity that we use. So all of those fossil fuels that we have to use really can hurt the earth. So the less that we use, the more time we have with our beautiful animals. He's looking at my foot as a potential food source.
Well, I feel he probably likes your shoestrings, right, Jake?
He does. He loves chomping down on the shoestrings. Will you hang out here for a second?
Everybody loves a good shoestring.
I know, right?
Obviously.
He's so handsome.
Jake, that's a really good look at his face. I saw a question come through from Simone, I believe, about what color are his eyes?
Oh, gosh. Hold on, Simone. Let me look. Gray, brown, hazel. What he's doing right now, which is really cool, I'm going to try to get you a good look, is he has, and many birds have, what's called a nictitating membrane that they use to cover their eye before they close their actual eyelid. So you may see, as I'm pointing the camera right at his face, oh, yawn, cute. But you may see his nictitating membrane come out, and it's kind of opaque, and it covers his eye. And that is another adaptation that he uses to help make sure that his eyes don't get gross things in them when he's hunting in a carcass.
So is that, I've heard people talk about third eyelids before. Is that the same idea? Thing?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to get a good view. Hi, Fester.
He's like, everything's more interesting than you.
Yeah, I know, right? So another thing that I like to chat about with turkey vultures is a lot of people here in the United States have seen turkey vultures soaring way high in the sky. And the really cool thing about these birds is they're kind of late risers. We've all heard this saying, like, the early bird gets the worm, right? Vultures aren't interested in worms, A. But B, they rely really heavily on thermals to fly around in the sky. So they wait until it's warmer out in the day for all of the thermals, which are warm updrafts of air moving high, for them to go out and soar on. And so a lot of times people will see vultures circling around high in the sky. And one of those common misconceptions is that vultures circle over dead animals. And that's not entirely true. Yeah. So many of us have been told that all the time, but it's not entirely true. And if you think about it logically, for a wild animal, they're hungry all the time. They're always looking for food, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when they find food, they're not just going to circle around it and be like, there's food here, everyone. They're going to be eating the food. And same thing for the vultures. When they find their food, they'll be on the ground eating it. When they're circling up high in the sky, they're riding those thermals, those warm updrafts of air, and using that to stay up in the sky without having to flap their wings a lot. Pretty smart maneuver.
That is really smart. And, now that I'm thinking about it, like, that wouldn't make sense for them to circle above their food. You're totally right. That's like yelling, hey, I've got something really good here.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. The other thing I like to talk about when we're talking about flying is that vultures actually are really amazing soaring animals. So they soar high in the sky on those thermals, like I mentioned. And the turkey vultures that we have here in North America, many of them will actually migrate all the way down to South America each year, which is pretty rad.
Wow.
It's a very, very long
So they can
flight.
fly really far.
Exactly. So some turkey vultures stay where they are year round, but a lot of the individuals that come all the way up north, like way past Tennessee, up north here in the U.S., will migrate all the way down to South America annually and then make their way back up.
Wow. So maybe some of the birds that live in more temperate areas, like the South here, they might stay around too, though?
Exactly. Okay. Yep. So Fester Stories, he actually came to us from a wildlife rehabilitator all the way up in Michigan. And he was turned into the rehabilitator because someone found Fester on like their back porch, and he was really friendly and like trying to look for food. And so they realized something was up, like that was abnormal. They took him to this wildlife rehabilitator, and they determined that he was not able to be released back into the wild because he's too friendly towards people. He really likes hanging out near people. And he has a lot of people here at the zoo that he works with in our animal shows and in our other programs. He typically flies out in our shows, like the little routine we showed at the beginning of our live today. But if he was left in the wild, he would probably get into a lot of trouble because not all humans are nice to wild animals, especially animals like turkey vultures that are a little less loved. So he had to be placed in a permanent home, and that's where your Nashville Zoo stepped in. And we actually took him in and gave him a home here at the zoo. Do you want to step up onto my hand, or are you trying to eat my hand again? Do you want to come up? I'll take you back up high. And so we've actually had him here at the zoo for about 9 years. And they estimated when he was found that he was about a year old. So he's just about 10 now. Turkey vultures... Oh, go ahead, Kelsey.
Nope, you were about to answer it. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Turkey vultures in the wild will live to be about 16 years of age. That's kind of the oldest that they've lived to be. In human care, they can live well into their 30s. So quite a long time. The first turkey vulture that I ever met actually lives over at the Akron Zoo up in Ohio. And he was like young when I was working there 12, 15 years ago. He's now 34 years old and doing so well. So I'm really excited to see Fester live that long. Look at him strolling through the tall grass. He's such a wacky-doo. Where are you going?
I saw a question from Jack a while ago.
Okay.
I don't know if he's still on. But Jack was wondering how big Fester is. Did you bring a quarter for scale today?
No. So I can actually tell you that Fester weighs about 1,600 grams. And that's about 3 pounds, roughly.
Wow.
So he is larger than your average chicken, but he only weighs about 3 pounds. And that's because most birds that are made for flying have to be really lightweight so they can soar high in the sky without having to expend a lot of energy. So he has, like Johnny was mentioning earlier, like a 5 to 6 foot wingspan, but there's not a lot to him.
It's always crazy to me when you tell me birds' weight, about how light they are. And it doesn't have something to do with their bone structure or how their bones like are?
Yeah, so their bones, we often say hollow bones.
Yeah.
Which isn't like entirely accurate. It's more like if you look at like a sponge that has a ton of holes in it. That's more like what the inside of a bird's bones look like, just larger holes than your average sponge, but still far less dense than mammal and reptilian bones. And that allows them to have less body weight. The interesting thing about most birds is the bulk of their weight actually comes from all of their feathers. So he's covered in hundreds of feathers all over his body, from the tiny little down feathers that are like the size of my thumbnail, all the way up to the long flight feathers that you can see on his wings.
Jake, on some of our previous lives, we've talked about animals that like water, that like taking baths. Is Fester one of those?
Great question. So I mentioned a little earlier that he goes to the bathroom on his legs a lot. And that helps him kind of disinfect his legs and get rid of some of the bacteria that might come from the animals that he's eating. And also helps cool him down out in the wild. So if he goes to the bathroom right on his legs, the urine will evaporate. It creates a cooling sensation and makes him feel a lot less hot. So for multiple reasons, vultures really don't like to bathe in water. But what they do like to do is what he's doing right now is sunbathing. And Fester loves sunning himself. Oftentimes, we have to put him out in this exercise yard to give everyone kind of a glimpse of where we are. Right behind me is the amphitheater. So if you've been to the zoo before, you've noticed this exercise yard that's right up here on the hill behind the amphitheater. This is where we put a lot of our animal show birds in the morning so they can get a lot of this sun, feel really good, enjoy it before they have to do their show. Because I know that a lot of people have come to shows before and they've seen our man Fester out there flying. And every once in a while, there's the day that he just decides that the sun is so much more exciting than anything else. And that's when he sticks his wings out and sits right there on the stage and just hangs out and enjoys the sun. And so that is a really natural behavior that also helps the UV rays help build better feather structure and stronger feathers. And then it also does help break down some of the bacteria that he might have on his body from eating the carrion.
Good question coming in from Anna Grace. Jake, what are Festers or turkey vultures predators in the wild, or what are their threats?
Typically, not many species prey upon the turkey vulture. They are pretty large, so they don't really have to worry about too many things. And because of their soaring lifestyle, they spend so much time up high in the sky or up high in the trees. Predators like bobcats and cougars don't generally have a really easy time getting to them. However, human-caused problems are many. DDT is a pesticide that was used back in the 50s and 60s, and we're still seeing effects of that on all kinds of birds all around the United States to this day, even though it was outlawed in 1972. So that's a really big threat to them, is pesticide use, because anything that we're putting on our plants or in our gardens makes its way down into the water system, makes its way all the way up the food chain. And Fester and other vultures, because they're eating dead creatures, are eating just about every part of the food chain. Another threat to the turkey vulture is hunters or farmers shooting them, whether mistakenly or purposefully. There are a lot of myths out there about vultures. People think that they might harm their livestock. People might think that they'll give them away while they're out hunting, and people will shoot them and kill them out in the wild. So if you're hunting, only hunt what you're allowed to hunt. If you're farming, learn more about all of the wild animals that live around you. And once you learn a little bit about the turkey vulture, you'll know that they're actually not going to eat your cattle or your sheep or whatever you have out there. What they actually like to do is eat dead food. Very rarely will a turkey vulture prey upon maybe a smaller creature that is ill or injured. I would say a solid 95% of the time, the research shows that they will eat mostly dead animals.
That's really good to know, Jake. I know there is a fear from a lot of people that vultures eat small mammals like the rabbits in your yard or things that other birds of prey might eat. So I think that's really important for people to know.
Yeah.
I saw a good question came in from Mandy. How long can they fly before they need to rest?
They can actually fly a very long distance. When they're migrating annually, they don't want to like have to take, 2 months to move back and forth. They want to get down there as soon as possible. And because vultures use thermals, those warm updrafts of air, to stay high in the sky, they don't have to expend a lot of energy. And a lot of times, vultures will coast from thermal to thermal using winds. And so you often see them congregating at certain times of the year. It kind of depends. But usually like spring and fall, you'll see vultures migrating back and forth. But they'll use these thermals that are like over really high traffic areas for humans. If you can imagine, Kelsey, like a giant parking lot that serves a mall is going to give off a lot of heat because all of the black pavement is radiating heat out as it kind of lets it off. And then all of the cars in the parking lot are reflecting heat off, and all of the activities causing a lot of heat. So they rely on that to make a thermal, and then they'll use those to make their way down south or back up north, depending on what time of year it is.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. You're like blowing my mind so much today, Jake. Like I'm not sure where to go from here.
Yeah. Vultures are some of the neatest animals out there, and I think they have a really bad reputation, but they're truly very intelligent birds. Fester has such a fun personality. When he's doing summer shows, our summer season is typically from March through October. He's like usually in the zone. So he's kind of aloof like he is right now, and just like, if you don't have food, I really don't want to talk to you because I'm trying to work right now. But in the off season, when he doesn't have to work, he like knows that it's relaxing time, and he'll just like hang out on your hand or sit with you in the sun. He's very sweet. Hi, Fester.
What a guy.
Yeah, so cool. Any other questions about vultures so far?
Well, I saw a really good one. This was a while ago, but Jake, what is your favorite vulture fact?
I think the fact that they will poop on their feet is really cool to me. It's a very gross thing that they do, but it's such a great adaptation for so many reasons. So cleaning themselves up, cooling themselves down, and scaring off predators by staying really stinky are all really great ways to live your life. I wouldn't pee or poop on myself, but it's cool that vultures do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question, Simone. Jake, are his claws sharp?
Not really. So vultures are carrion eaters, so they eat dead animals. So they have a really sharp, curved beak right there that he uses to tear at his food. But his nails and his feet are pretty much there just to hold on to branches or to like stand on a carcass. And vultures can't grip very much like other birds of prey. So he doesn't really have to, like, I don't really have to worry too much about his sharp nails. That's why I can handle him without a glove on, unlike an owl or a hawk, which have much stronger and sharper talons.
Yeah, that's good to know. Jake, I remember last week we talked briefly about birds of prey, and you did include vultures in those. I'm interested now, having heard more about vultures, on like why you included them in the birds of prey category.
I don't do any of that. It's all
That's
like
true.
scientists who study birds of prey and like other birds that kind of make the determination. And it honestly like depends on who you ask and when you ask them. I don't know what to tell you, Kelsey.
Okay.
With science, like there's a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of stuff that we're still learning. And so it really just depends on what people are feeling like at the time of publication. And then they're like, I'm going to decide this based on all of this data, all of this evidence. And things change so frequently in the science field. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Hi.
Okay, that's a good question, Faith. What about their young? How many babies will vultures have, and what does that look like? Do they raise them in a nest?
Nest is like a strong word here. they will maybe make a little pile of rocks, maybe stick two twigs together and call it a nest. They're not really strong nesters, but they will raise their young. Female vultures can lay between 1 and 3 eggs at a time. They'll raise them using regurgitated food that mom and dad both go out and find and eat and then spit up to the children. And then it takes about 40 days for a vulture to hatch from an egg, and then they'll stick around mom and dad for a while. But the cool thing about vultures is they're fairly social birds, and they will roost together, which means they'll go find a place to sleep together at the end of every night, and you'll often see a lot of them sleeping next to each other. And then they'll also look for food in the same areas, so they'll be soaring on thermals together. So I think a lot of people will see vultures circling in like a very large group. And that's actually an interesting thing called a kettle of vultures. That's the technical term for a group of vultures circling on a thermal together.
Wow.
And they will be in groups of up to the thousands, which is pretty neat. So they're actually really social birds. They have, like I said, up to 3 young at a time. And then they'll sometimes stick together after hatching.
I saw a question from Lee, which I think is interesting, talking about social circles for birds. Lee asked, do they ever fight over food?
Oh, all the time. Yes. If you paid attention earlier when we first got up into the exercise yard and I threw a bunch of food down for Fester, you may have noticed that he like kind of stuck his wings out a little bit. That's what's called mantling. And he's not as, oh, sorry, I'm getting a lot of pollen in my throat. Excuse me. Listen, it's pretty to be outside, but it's dangerous too. I'll just say that. So I threw the food down. He stuck his wings out. Mantling is a great way to protect your food source from other birds. Fester's really not as bad about it as some of our other birds because I think he's smart enough to realize, like, I don't actually want his chick or rat or mouse. Like, I'm not interested in it. And, like, he connects the dots between, like, I just gave it to him versus I'm trying to take it from him. Some of our other maybe less intelligent birds, like owls, they will mantle so aggressively over the mouse that I hand them. And I'm like, I literally have no interest in this. I just gave it to you. Like, it's a gift. But you'll often see out in the wild, vultures will fight with other vultures and even other birds and other animals over carcasses that they find. Because in the wild, you know, you're working for making sure that you're surviving, right? That's all you're doing throughout your life. In human care, vultures don't have to worry so much, so they're not as defensive over their food. And one other point, while we're talking about like birds being social, especially the vulture, here in Tennessee, we're actually fortunate because we have 2 species of vulture. So we have the beautiful turkey vulture, which is a little bit larger. They have that bright red head. That's kind of the telltale sign. And they have some counter coloring on their wings on the underside. So he has lighter on the outside of his wings, and then he has darker on the inside. Those are all good field marks when you're looking at vultures flying above you. We also have the black vulture native to Tennessee as well, and they are, as the name implies, all black, whereas turkey vultures are actually a lot more brown when you get up close to them. Look how pretty and brown. And they have an all black head. And so oftentimes you'll see black vultures and turkey vultures circling together and even feeding together. Black vultures are also quite social. They'll be found in groups, but they spend a lot more time running around on the ground, and they're a lot more nimble on the ground. It's really cute to see black vultures running around. And black vultures don't range much more north than maybe southern Kentucky. Turkey vultures will range all the way from the northernmost United States all the way down to the southern tip of South America.
Wow, that's really interesting. I didn't realize there were 2 species of vultures here, but I guess I should have known because they look different.
Oh my gosh, Kelsey, yeah. That's
I'm
something
sorry.
you should know. Now you know. Never be ashamed of what you don't
Trent,
know.
I saw your question about those species, and absolutely, they'll be out in Bell's Bend, Franklin, everywhere around here. So,
yeah, they're all over.
Awesome. Well, I think we should probably let Fester get back to his sunning, Jake.
Yeah, he's busy, and I'm gonna go get lunch now that I fed him all of his lunch.
I really wish I was there at the zoo today because my office looks over Fester's little exercise yard. And I just watch him sun all day.
He's so handsome. Thanks, everyone, so much for joining us for Take a Break with Jake via Instagram. Kelsey, it was great seeing you and chatting with you. And we hope y'all love
Yes.
Fester.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Same time, same place. We're doing a snake, right, Jake, tomorrow?
Yeah, I actually am going to do 2 snakes tomorrow.
Ooh, I'm excited for this little surprise.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
All right. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.